whenever you are talking about business, always talk about accountability first and then making money. Peter Drucker, Austrian-American guy, he defines business as business that's easily defined. In just one line, he says, it's other people's money. Many people would take the literal meaning. Wow, it's other people's money. Use it, enjoy it, have fun. That's not what he means. What he means is that you are trustee of other people's money. Even when you're putting in your money, treat it as if it's others' money, so that you're more diligent, so that you portray yourself as a custodian of somebody's money, which will make you more accountable. And then obviously, philosophical economy in terms of your morality and ethics. But the governing accountability always is law. So that's where lawyers are important. And that's where Rashid Al-Naomi and Kaden Boriss are important. Sorry for being so blatant in marketing, but it's just on the lighter vein. This session is purely intellectual in nature and has got nothing to do with selling anyone. What does this indicate? This indicates that business has to be ever growing. You have to live in a world where you have to diversify, expand every day. Every day you have to do that. So therefore, business should always be taken as a tree, as a plant. There are jokes going around in the market that why did the shark not eat lawyer? Because there was a professional courtesy. And I mean, there are so many jokes. There are jokes even to the extent that if you find a snake, a live snake or a lawyer, kill the lawyer first. Otherwise, he'll sell you the snake. So those are the jokes which are going around the market. But I am telling you, with utmost humility at my command, that lawyer is the best friend, philosopher, and guide you can have in your lifetime. What today's lawyer does is that he acts as a bridge between your business and the legislation. Because laws you can read, but you need a lawyer who can actually apply your business into the law and law into your business, so that he becomes a strategic lawyer, not a simple, straightforward, straight-jacketed law clerk. So therefore, the legal profession has evolved. And it is very important to have a lawyer by your side because he's your business advisor as well. And it's very critical to have, that's why most of the companies have lawyers on their board. Why do they have lawyers on the board? Not as an ornament, no, because they add tremendous value to the decision making of the board and management. And globalization. We had never heard of laws like antitrust, cartelization, unfair, restrictive trade practices, intellectual property rights. Many people open companies in tax havens, thinking that all the revenues their company is generating is non-taxable. Most of the prominent nations have adopted this principle of POEM, which means no matter where you are making money, if it can be proved by the tax authorities that the decision was made elsewhere, which is a taxable destination. So be careful, have a lawyer who would advise you how you have to do the paperwork of all those countries where you have, the tax is not there or is minimal. Because just by having a company parked there and raising money will not help you. A day will come when your 5 or 6 years income will be penalized. And it will not only be taxed, it would be a draconian tax. It would even have a criminal sort of implication. So therefore, POEM is a new concept which needs very proactive lawyers to advise business guys. I don't know how many people are aware that lawyers have become so important in the world that IBM has produced an artificial lawyer. I don't know if anybody's aware of the gentleman called Ross. Ross is not a natural human being. Ross is an artificial lawyer with 7 years experience. And Ross is already sitting in one law firm in US. And Ross is equivalent to people say 15 lawyers. So Ross is so important that IBM has invested millions of dollars in producing Ross. So I'm not going on the sort of other debate of people becoming jobless because of Ross and all that. That's a social subject we'll discuss some other time. But fact of the matter is that the artificial intelligence has become so important in today's days, that too in the legal segment, that IBM has invested millions of dollars. Business, it's very important for you guys to understand that a businessman uses the word very loosely. Oh, I'm taking over that business, oh, I'm setting up that business, I'm setting up that factory, I'm setting up that production house, I'm sort of getting into a joint venture. You have to advise and guide your clients, or the business people need to know that law does not recognize loose expressions. Each nation in the world packages different business options under different heads, and they have to be dealt with in accordance with the legislation made by the respective parliament or senate or congress bodies. So it's very important to understand what is a takeover, what is an amalgamation, what is a private equity deal, what is acquisition, what is liquidation, what is insolvency, what is bankruptcy, what is joint venture. So these are all legal expressions, many times used interchangeably or loosely. So a lawyer would be able to tell you which expression means what. It's very important to understand the cross-border regulatory regime as well, because many people think, oh, I want to invest in Dubai. What are the laws in Dubai? They don't understand that what country you come from, their laws are equally important, because whether they facilitate you investing cross-border or not. So all these regulatory measures are critical for any businessman to understand the implications of business and business options.
So those were the inflection points in the technology industry. What about the business? From a business perspective, I use the term I call it as a tipping point. For small, medium businesses, depending on how you look at it, when we talk about small and medium-sized businesses, looking at the companies which have an employee base anywhere between 50 to 500 employee base. The tipping points for a business, as we have seen from our experience in the region and across in the world, some of the tipping points more recently that have brought businesses down on their knees, they have been ransomware. How many of you know about ransomware, please? Ransomware? Have you heard about ransomware? It's a malware kind of a scenario where all your data gets encrypted, whether it's on your laptop or on your server or on your shared hard disk, and then you get a message where a hacker demands certain amount of bitcoins or dollars in order to give you back your data. And how many of us know how to pay the hacker in a bitcoin format? Most of our IT guys will rush back to us, sir, I have to pay 100 bitcoins, what do? We don't know about how to pay in bitcoins. There are online Wall Street exchange kind of scenarios who take dollars, dirhams, pounds from you, give you bitcoins in return, you go back onto the website, you pay in bitcoins, and then they will release the key through which you can unencrypt or decrypt your data. Every once in 2 months, we get calls where people are suffering from the ransomware attacks and they want their data to be retrieved. the tipping point for a business. Because just think about it, one fine morning you realize all your intellectual property, all your files are encrypted, and the hacker is asking you a couple of $1,000 in bitcoins to get your data back. And still that's not a guarantee, by the way. Unintentional data deletion. You have your internal IT guy, unintentionally, he just deletes the data and it's all gone. To recover that data is a forensics in itself. Insider data theft breach. I'll probably down the line I'll show you some of the figures over there. A lot of intellectual property, your data, is usually stolen by someone who works within your company, or someone who is about to leave your company, or someone who has already left your company but his rights have not been revoked. So remotely, he just takes your data out, and if he's, I would say, if he is modest enough, he can keep a copy with you, or he will simply take the whole thing and do a cut paste, and the data is gone from your company altogether. Insider data breach. Virus attack. So there's a bit of a difference. You might ask what's the difference between a virus attack and a ransomware. So understand, virus attack does not ask you money in return of your data. It's all gone. Whereas ransomware is double threat. So your data is also gone. Then you have this option in your mind, probably I can give more money and get my data back. So that's why there's a bit of a demarcation. Water damage. Now think about it. I'm taking into consideration the risks which lie with the SMBs arena. Enterprise risks are different altogether. Water damage. Most of our server rooms are not exactly tier 2, tier 3 or tier 4 hosted in the tier 4 data centers. We have an office space, we have taken up an extra, probably an AC area and an extra power. We put one rack over there and we host that as, and then that we call as our data center. And then the water leakage can happen in those areas because probably they are lying in some remote corner of the world with an extra AC and the water starts dripping down on your IT equipment. Fire in the data center. Not adequate cooling, not adequate power supply, extra burden on the power cables, you just catch fire. Systems failure. Altogether, completely IT related systems failure can happen, where your hard disk can go crashing down, your RAID systems can fail, your storage controllers are out, or if there is a power supply fluctuation, which doesn't happen in this region, but it does happen. Some of the building maintenance guys just shut off the power supply without telling you, and then they restore it in about 1 or 2 hours. Your storage controllers fail. Your hard disk spins do not come back up, and your RAID systems have failed. Systems fail. Those are some of the tipping points that we're talking about. When I say in the technical language, these are the risks that we carry to our data. And data is money with an exponential power of abstraction that you cannot quantify these days. Moreover, for those who belong or those who come from the UAE region, you know there is a National Emergency Crisis and Disaster and SEMA authority, which is the one which is managing your disaster recovery scenario, and they talk about the risk that the region faces. So one of the risks that's rated on their website is the rain floods. And I think most of us remember in the March this year, heavy rains that brought down quite a large part of Abu Dhabi. How many of you remember those rains? And you might not know about it. Some of the data centers which are operating in this region also got flooded. So think about it. Those guys who have they haven't done their due diligence and have put their data centers into some of the locally available data centers also suffered because the data centers were not built up on the mark to survive those kind of a water downfall surveillance. So, UAE awash and sudden downpour, buildings evacuated. When building gets evacuated, you don't worry about what's happening to the servers or your storage which is lying inside the building. You just run out, leaving everything else at the nature's mercy. And we usually worry about our passports and ourselves, which is fine, but yes, that's what we do. So those are the disasters that may take place. Listen, just a quick view of some of the clippings from Gulf News. The fires that happen in this part of the world. Now, these are the clippings which we all see, whether it is Gulf News, College Times. And please notice that I am taking the data of the local geography. So how many businesses might be operating out of these towers? How many businesses might be operating out of these towers? How much of data would have been lost? We would never get to know about that. Unless and until we know someone who has been operating out of this building. And these buildings are full of offices. Data loss. Remember this risk which I was talking to you about? Insider data breach? In the news, UAE case, data breaches cost 3.8 million. You have your intellectual property, you have your confidential information, somebody just takes it away, he starts to sell it out. All these dumb calls that we receive from Etisalat, how do they get our numbers? Somebody has done a data breach in an organization like Etisalat and you. You never know at how many places our mobile numbers are currently being rotated on. Now that's an enterprise grade of a business that I'm talking about. Similarly, your data will have a lot more confidentiality with it. Middle East firms lose 1 million in data breaches in the last year.